Hello and welcome to my YouTube video. I'm Louise Nichols, I'm a textile artist and I live in Cornwall. And today's video is part 5 of designing a kit from scratch. But before we get on to that main bit of the video, I just want to say thank you to everybody who came to the Cambridge Textiles East Fair. It was a lovely, lovely event from start to finish. The help from the organisers setting up, taking down, the people that came, the compliments, everything. It was really, really lovely. So thank you so much. The last video, there has been a video that's gone out, the previous video to this one went out after I was back from Cambridge, but I'd already recorded that video before I went. So I wasn't able to say thank you in that one, but I just want you to know I really do appreciate it. So on with part 5. Okay. So you can see I've made a start stitching the spring one. All I've done is to do that little up and over stitch around the outside of all the pieces of felt using my cream thread. So this is the cream thread that I've used for this one, and this is the thread that whoever buy the kits, this is the thread that you'll get in there, all wrapped around a little holder. And while I'm doing this, very technical, you know. I write everything down on bits of paper. So I start to make a list of the threads that I've used. So you can see here I've got landscape spring, because obviously we've got summer, autumn and winter, so I'll do the same for all 4 seasons. And here, number 1, cream sewing thread. And then I tend to measure the threads out in 50 centimetre lengths as I'm going. So every time I measure the next length out, I'll write another 50 down, and then at the end of it I add them all together to see how much thread of that particular colour that I've used. And then on another bit of paper I'm starting to write my instructions as well. So again, landscape instructions. Now what I want to do with these is to use the same instructions for each of the 4 seasons. So this is why the felt has all gone into the same places. Whatever colour is here, I think I explained, didn't I, on the last video, whatever colour is here. Oh, and I added that extra bit in, I'll tell you about that in a minute. Wherever this colour is here, again, whatever the colour is here, it will be here, here, here and here on all of the other prints as well. And then wherever thread 1 is used on here, it will be the same on all the other ones too. And again, wherever thread 2 is used, it will be the same on the other 3 seasons as well. And then that saves me writing separate instructions and completely confusing myself if I you know, it's better to have one set of instructions than 4 different lots, is what I'm trying to say. See, I'm confusing myself even trying to say it. Okay, so as I say, you can see I've managed to stitch around the outside there. So the next thing, I tend to look at the couched stitch next, because that's quite a prominent stitch on here. And I've got my bowl full of colours that I feel I may or may not use. I certainly won't use all of these, but they're just sort of the way I think I mentioned again in that last video that I quite like this sort of purpley lilac-y colour with the greens. So I like that one particularly because it's not quite as dark as that one. I think that's quite a fresh lavender lilac-y colour. So I think definitely that thread there. And also I liked how this sort of, it's like an aubergine colour as well, works with it. And I tend to do the couch stitch up the centre of things, sometimes over the sort of top of things, again to sort of add a little bit of detail. So I want some detail on here, and I'm thinking that a couch stitch would be really nice down here. So then I'll just sort of start playing. Say these are the colours that I've started to pick out, No, I'm not so keen on the pale one. Oh, I don't know actually, maybe the pale one would be better. Maybe the other one's a little bit too dark. Yeah, maybe the darker one would work better in these here and the pale one there. So really all I'm doing is sort of beginning to imagine and picture where I want these threads to go. I'll probably couch sort of up the centre of the trunk there. Again, maybe that dark one's a little bit too dark for that. I'm going to do some French knots in there, I think, again, which would probably work better with the darker one rather than the pale one. So that might be something that I use there. I certainly don't want, if I use any of these sort of golden yellow colours, I don't want these going. That's a little bit bright actually for me. I probably won't use that one. But yeah, see, that wouldn't stand out enough. So that might be something that I use. I don't know, I would like to use it somewhere, whether it be over the top of these hills or... Again, I don't think I want to use too much yellow on the leaves. I don't want it to look as if it's sort of turning into autumn. So really, once I've sort of got to this point, I really need to start getting some stuff stitched down. So I'm thinking I'm definitely going to do this over here. And I don't think I really want the dark one going up there either. I think I'm going to use the pale one in the tree there. Oh yes, I was going to say, wasn't I, about that little bit. Couldn't decide whether I needed another a line there, so I did cut some sections out that just sort of made another strip there, but it made a bit of a funny shape here, and also I felt as if then there were too many lines over on this side. But just by filling in that little gap there with that darker green, it's sort of given it a little bit of depth, hasn't it? So I do like that. So I've done that on all the other colours as well, on all the other seasons. Right, I'm going to start stitching now. I'm going to start, I think, with the pale actually, rather than the darker one. So let's move that out of the way. So let me get my ruler. So as I say, I sort of tend to do 50, you can't see it there, let me move it in shot. So I tend to do roughly sort of 50 centimetre length. So I'll cut that down. Get my needle threaded up. Not the end. And then I just need to make a note of it on my list that I've started making. So thread number 2, I don't know the number of this shade, but it's a ruby, so I'll just write down that it's a ruby 8, so because it's a size 8 thread, and it's a lavender colour, and I'm going to use, I've got 50 centimetres measured out, so I'll start with that, and then I'm going to decide where to put it. So as I say, I think definitely along this bottom bit here. So I'm going to start with that because I know I definitely want that in there. So I want this in a straight line as well. If you are watching this because eventually when the kits are available to buy, you're actually stitching it, you can draw yourself a little line to help you get it nice and straight if you want to, if that helps. That to go in there about In there, that's it. Also, I will be stopping the video periodically because as I'm doing this, for all the kits that I make now, I include a lot more photographs of the process, so that there's a lot more visual diagrams to look at, and they're photographs that I've taken as I am actually stitching the kit. So I will be stopping the video in a minute just to take, because I'm using my phone to record as well. So and I take my photographs on my phone as well. So okay, so I want it there. So I need to decide where else I would like it. Yeah, I think definitely up there. I want to get that in the middle. And I'm going to take it right up into that leaf there. So it goes all the way through. Sometimes I might stop it here, but I think with this one I want it to go all the way through there. And I'm really just thinking about the couching that I want to use the thicker thread over the top of. So these will only be stitched over with a general sewing thread. So I'm not really looking at putting that in yet. Right, okay, so I'm thinking if I'm going to do these with that darker purple, because I think they'll stand out nicely, I'm going to do the trunk of this with this lilac. It might be nice to do both of those with the lavender lilac-y colour. Yeah, let's go for it. So I'm not really going to, on this video, show you how to do the stitches because, as I say, we've covered that before. I might do a video of actually making the kit, putting the whole kit together as a separate video. But this really, this little series of videos is just to show you my thought process and what actually goes into designing a kit, all the different stages involved. So this one, you know, is really sort of just about working out what stitches are going to go where using which colour, you know, whichever colour threads. So yeah, I like that. I like that there. Okay, let's tie that off as well. Okay, I'm going to make a start then as well, starting to stitch, do the couching over the top. So I'm just going to stop the video a minute and then we'll come back. Okay, so I've started doing the couching, but I also decided to add some of those darker threads in as well. So you can see I've done some long stitches here. The reason I did that was because as I was beginning to stitch along here, I knew I wanted to couch over these little bits of the stem as well, and I thought actually if the darker ones are in, that makes that an easier step in the kit, so that's why I've done that. So all I'm doing now is making my way along here, couching down those long stitches using a slightly thicker thread, and I've written the measurements down on my sheet there, and I've made a note of the instructions as well on my sheet over there. So I'm going to get all of these couched down now. Oh, and the other thing I did actually, I fetched this lovely dark green thread, which I'm thinking will be quite nice to couch over the top of that. The cream, because I was couching between with a, well, usually couching between with a thinner thread. I don't think that's going to stand out enough over that pale sort of lavendery colour, whereas I think the green will be quite nice. So I will have a go with that in a minute. So I've couched over all those long stitches that I'd done, and already I'm thinking I'm just changing my mind about a couple of them. So these two here, I'd done this one here. I didn't want this sort of in the centre of here or on the edge of here or down the middle of these, so that's why it's kind of offset in this empty space here. So I'd done this one the same up here. I like it here, but I'm just beginning to, I feel as if it's a little bit bitty up here. So I think what I'm actually going to do is to unpick that, and I'm going to run it down the edge of that green stripe there. And then also here, I'm just thinking ahead now what I'm going to do in these bits of the tree. And I think here, what I would quite like to do is a couch line, but not using the thicker thread, just using a general sewing thread over the top. But I want them to be opposite what I've got on the trunk there. And because I'm going to do these French knots in this darker purple, I don't want the middle of this one being dark purple as well. So I'm going to unpick this one, and I'm going to make the trunk of this one in the dark purple, and then so that these two sort of mirror each other. I think that would be quite a nice balance. I'm then going to do these two top sections here in this sort of paler lavender colour, and then the French knots in this one here. So I'm going to unpick those now before we go any further. Sometimes you leave these things, don't you, thinking, oh no, I'll just leave it, I'm sure it'll be okay, or, you know, and I've learned it's not okay, is it? You just have to go into stitching in reverse, don't you, and just take it out. Let's snip that there. Take those bits out there, and then the other one was this one here, so I'm going to snip that knot there. Take that out, and there. But yes, I think you just got to go with your gut instinct, haven't you? If it's not quite right, then don't have it. Just take it out now and change it. Okay, so I'm going to add one of those back in. I've still got some needle in my thread from doing the previous one, so I don't need to measure out any more for this one at the moment. So I'm going to add that one in there, like that. And then I'm going to do one down the edge of that green stripe, as I said. Now I've got some little holes here where this is, so just use the needle and that will bring that weave back together, so you can't see that that was there. And then do a line down the edge of there, and then I'm going to couch over those the same as I have with all the rest of them. Yeah, I'm much happier with that now. Much prefer that down there. And I think this is going to look better with these paler lavender top sections as well. And I've added the bird legs in because I know I want those to be dark. So I thought I'd get those in again so I can just begin to sort of see the balance. So the next thing is to start stitching in between these thicker thread, little dark dots that I've made. So wherever the darker thread is, I'm going to stitch in between with my pale thread that I've used around the outside of the felt. So I've measured another 50, written it down, and I'll start stitching in between down here and wherever that dark thread is. And then the pale one, I am going to go for that green. I've threaded my needle up, measured it, written it on my list, and measured 50 centimetres out. So I'm going to do that, but again I will stop it because I'm going to take a photograph as well. So I'm going to start on this one here, and it's that little, just that little stitch that goes over the top. So when I'm taking a photograph of a certain step, I like to have done a little bit of the stitch like that, but then sort of take it mid-stitch, if you see what I mean. So probably about there, like that. So what I'll do is I'll position the needle like this so you can see that's where the threads come out, that's where the needle's going in, and I'll take a photograph of that, and then that will be what will go in the instructions, and hopefully that makes it easier for people. Okay, so I'm going to stop it again now. So I've couched in between all those stitches now using that darker green, which I think's worked really well, and in between the darker, on the darker thread with the pale one, which has also worked well, I think. And also you can probably see I've started adding some more of the, using this size 8, I'm starting to add some extra little bits of detail as well. So I don't, when I'm couching, I don't always want these thicker dots. I want some of it, I just want to stitch over with the general sewing thread. So they're the bits that I'm working on now. I decided not to do one over the top of this hill because we've got quite a lot of couching going on around here, and I thought it might make it look too much. So what I want to do over the top of that hill there, I'll probably do a line or 2 or 3 maybe of running stitch rather than a couch stitch. But you can see here I've added in these straight lines on here, so that's kind of completed the stems. I've added the other lines in on the other 4 leaves. What else have I added in? Oh, and then I've left these loose so that I can follow the curve as I'm couching down on the trees and then on this bit of hill. So there's a little tiny bit there, and also because this hill continues here, there's a bit here as well. So I'm going to couch over those now. So again, the dark thread will be done with the cream, and the lavender coloured thread will be done with the green coloured thread. Of which I've already got some in my needle left over from before. So again, I'll be stopping it so that I can just take some photographs that will go in the instructions. And the next thing I think about adding will be French knots. If I feel that once I've stitched all this down, that's enough. So French knots will be next. Right, I'll clip my microphone on. There we go. Hopefully you can hear me now. So I have added lots of French knots, as you can probably see. There we go. So I've done some in these little dots here. Tiny French knot for the eye of the bird, some little stitches for his beak, and then I really did want to bring in some sort of golden yellow, but I didn't want it on the leaves, and I didn't want it on the top of the hill because I didn't want it to start looking slightly September-ish. And then I thought actually it might be nice to just use this to do the French knots, which is what I've done. But whilst I was just adding these 4 here, I thought it might be also nice to have some dotted over this sort of top of this hill as well. Because I'm going to do some running stitch here, and I would imagine there'll be some that sort of comes into here, I don't necessarily want lots of running stitch here as well, and by having some French knots, that will just sort of break it up. And I am just loving these sort of golden yellow coloured French knots that I've already done. So to help me decide where I'm going to do them, and if I like them, what I will do, as with those there, I will take a little bit of the liner away. I'll carve a little tiny dot, a bit like well, smaller than these here, but just so it helps you position your French knots rather than you having to guess. But I think probably 1 over here, and then I think I'll probably fit 5 there, so I'm going to do a dot in the middle about there, and then I don't want to go right to the end there, so that would be one there and then one about there, and then in the middle of those one there and one there, so that gives me the 5 going over there, and I think that will look quite nice. So I'll get my thread. So I've already, so you can see on here, I've added my golden mustard. I don't know the number for this one of the thread. I'll have to look it up, and I've got my instructions that I'm still adding to at the side here. So let's start with this one here. These I wanted quite chunky because these were quite a big circle that I'd carved out. I've done these double thickness thread around the needle twice, but the rest of them are just a single thickness, and then round twice, and that's all I'm going to do for this one as well. Oh, throwing my thread around. So I'm going to do all 5 of these, and then I think that is enough. Oh, and I added these, didn't I? I didn't say about those. So I have done those in that dark purple, which I really like. So after the French knots are done, I'm then starting to think about where I'm going to add the running stitch. I definitely want some, as I say, going sort of over the sort of edges of some of these and across the top here. I might try a green as well, sort of to actually sit on the edge of the print, so it gives it a little bit of a slightly darker edge. I mean, I'm not looking to have a you know, something that looks completely lifelike, but sometimes it is nice just to sort of darken areas and lighten areas, so it gives it a little bit of depth and texture as well. And as before, I'm not carrying my thread across. I'm not sure how I'm going to mount these, but I don't want lines across the back going from one to the other. I spoke about that quite a bit, I think, didn't I, when I did the Christmas stitch along? But same with this, I don't want a line of thread. It's quite a thick thread. I don't want a line of that going across the back of my knots on the back of the fabric. Yeah, I'm really liking that. And I don't think I need any more, definitely no more French knots. I've got plenty on there. If you struggle with French knots, I know some ladies like to do a colonial knot. They find that a little bit easier, don't they? You know, or a little seed bead if you don't want to do a French knot. Right, okay, so I think next I am going to, I've got these 2 greens that I've picked out of my selection. So this is a size 16 thread now. These are both Finca threads. And I'm thinking I want to do this sort of line here. So there's either this green here or this darker green. But I don't know whether that's going to be a little bit too harsh. And now I've got this dark purple here, but I don't want it to look, I still want it to be fairly soft. Okay, so sometimes you just got to try it, haven't you? So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to try the darker one. I'm just going to pull off sort of that sort of length there, and just try that hill and see what I think about it once I've actually stitched it. And then if I don't like it, it can come back out again. So let me thread my needle up. I've already knotted the end, and I'm going to take it from right down here. So I'm going to do a stitch there, start there, and then I'm just going to do this running stitch to sit on the edge of the print. Okay, I'm not going to knot that at the end because I'm not sure about that. I think it doesn't look too bad, but I'm just thinking where else I'm going to have it. So I think I'll probably do it around the edge of here, possibly here, and I just wonder whether it might just be a little bit too dot and dashy. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I don't know if it sort of breaks it all up a little bit too much. So what I'm going to do is on this bit here, I'm going to try that other green and see if that looks softer. Sometimes you try a paler one and then it doesn't stand out enough. So again, as I say, you've just got to try it, see what it looks like. But I don't necessarily want it outlined. I'm just trying to sort of bring in a little bit of depth. So I'm only going to cut again a small length of thread and then just stitch around there, and then I'll probably just sort of hold my hand and see which one I think works the best. And sort of I'm trying to visualize it being in lots of other places as well, because obviously this is not the only place it's going to be. The other thing I did think about while I was doing these sort of couch lines and I was writing the instructions, trying to explain where they went, because there's quite a few hills in this, aren't there, and I like it to be clear where stitches have got to go. So I think what I'm probably going to do is some sort of diagram that will give the hills either numbers or letters so that you'll know which hill I'm talking about, or even which tree as well. Again, it just makes it a little bit easier for people to follow. Right, so I'm going to follow this line down here. So this is with the slightly paler green. Let's see how this looks when I've done it. That's definitely softer, isn't it? I think I'm preferring this one already. Let's have a look. Pull that needle through. Yeah. I don't think I need to do this side. I think I'm going to take this out and I'm going to do it with this one here. And then I'll probably bring in a paler green like this one here. Maybe have some lines of that, because that sort of doesn't look like that mustardy colour at all, does it? But when you kind of lay them next to each other, they do complement each other quite nicely. So I may well use that thread there. I'll probably use a cream Finca thread as well. And the other one I picked up, which I thought might be quite nice for in the sky, because again, it sort of picks up these sort of like yellowy shades, is this one here. I thought that would look quite nice. Yeah, okay, right. So let's take this dark green out. I'm going to leave that one in there. I've not really got enough to go through to the other side, so I'm just going to tie that off there, like that. Put my needle down a minute and pull this one out. There we go. Now I'll pop that back on the reel because it'll get used for something else. I don't want to waste it, but I think that green is just a little bit too dark. That might come in nicely for the summer one actually, because that's a darker green, isn't it? I'll bear that in mind. Right, okay. So a bit more of this. So, oh, I've got the number written down on this. So this is definitely a finker. Now I'm going to sort of take about 30 centimeters of that and then count that as being 50 to start off my thread measuring with that colour. So this will be thread 7. It's a finker 16 and it's a mid green and the shade is 4561 and I'm starting off with 50 centimeters. I'm sure I'll use more than 50, so all right, thread my needle back up and carry on with this. What was I going to say? Sometimes, oh, that was it. Yeah, sometimes as well when I reread the instructions, sometimes I do change things around. So I might have, as I've been stitching it to actually put the thing together, I might have done one particular thread first or a certain stitch first, and then when it comes to actually writing it, it makes more sense to do it a slightly different way. So I do sometimes change the instructions. You know, I might swap a few things around, and the same with the threads as well, because I like to sort of order the threads or number the threads in the order that you begin to use them. Whereas again, the numbers can change if I decide to do one colour before the other one. So things do sometimes change. Yeah, I definitely like that. Slightly softer green. And it's still, I don't know if that's picking it up on the camera. Let me have a look. I'm going to stand up and have a look to see what you're seeing. Yeah, you can see it, can't you? I think that's enough. I don't think I want anything more than that. I don't want the edges to be too harsh. Not on this one anyway. So as I say, I'm going to do a line over here, and I think probably here as well. Maybe around here. Yeah, definitely around here actually. Oh, yeah. I'll do those bits and then see how it's looking once those bits are done. So I'm going to restitch this line now. This line of running stitch. And then carry on with the rest of the lines that I was just talking about. yeah, I'm happy with that. Where was that? Green. I think that will work really well in there. Yeah. I think if I use that one there and then get my cream, I haven't got it with me at the minute, I have to nip and get my cream Finca 16 to use on this one. So it just means that this hill is a little bit darker and sits behind, and then the cream running stitch will be on the hill that's a little bit further forward. So we'll maybe bring it out a little bit. Yeah, okay. Right. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this colour first. So I think I'm pretty much decided. I think that's going to work. Yeah. So let's cut off 50 and make a note of this one. So I've got the shade written in here as well. So this will be thread number 8. It's a Finca 16 again, pale green, shade 5224. Put 50 down. Right, where are we? Right, let's get this threaded up. I think I am going to offer these as I don't know if I've said this before. I've certainly thought it. I've been thinking about it for a while. I'm going to offer this as they're going to be individual kits, so you'll be able to buy a full kit to do either spring, summer, autumn, or winter. But then also I thought it might be quite nice to offer them as a panel only kit, but where you get all 4 prints. So you get all 4 prints with a guide to what to do and stitch diagrams and all that kind of thing, but not all the threads and everything. But you get all four prints in there, which is making me think that I need to do a sample where all 4 are displayed together, you know, all kind of stitched together. So that's something to think about as well. All these things start running through your mind, don't they, when you're in the middle of stitching. Right, okay, so I think I'm going to start by doing a couple of lines, or one line. I'll start with one going over here, and we'll see how that's starting to look. If it's not standing out enough, I can always go and find a different colour thread, maybe one that's either a little bit paler or a little bit greener. I'll do this one line and then turn it around and see how it's looking. Yeah, I like that. Okay, it's quite soft, isn't it? Yeah, I do like that. Okay, so let's do another line going back the other way. I'll need to take a photo as well, won't I? Which I didn't do. Forgot all about that. Didn't do it with the darker green, did I? Not to worry, I've done it before, just have to go back over. Yeah, I do like that. I don't know if it's picking it up on the camera, but it's just a really nice soft green, and it's just giving it some really nice texture now. I do love a bit of texture. Okay, so I'm going to carry on stitching with this in the places that I feel I want to stitch, and then I'll bring you back in. Okay, so I'm doing a voiceover for this bit. So I'll try and explain what I'm doing in the video. So I'm just choosing my colours there, talking about the colours of size 16 threads that I want to use. And also that I want to follow that wave. So when I initially carved out the lino, I'd followed that shape. So it gave that movement in the sky. And so I was wanting to stitch that with that sort of pale apricot colour that you can see in the top right hand of the screen. And to make it easier, I'm going to draw the line on, or a line to follow, or a couple of lines to follow, I should say, with one of these disappearing fabric pens. So it just gives me a kind of a guideline as to where I want those stitches to go. It just helps a little bit. And if you are somebody that does buy one of these kits, then you can do the same, and it will just make it a little bit easier, I think. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that, I think. And you can see, can't you, how it follows the line of the carving. And I have got that pale apricot threaded up in my needle there. And it's just a running stitch that I'm doing this with. I don't know what I was saying there, but anyway, obviously pointing to something. I know I did say about not wanting to fill the whole of the width of that band going across the back there. So it may be that I do a line at the top and a line at the bottom and then kind of start to fill it in, but not fill it in completely. Okay, so I've finished stitching this wave here, which I'm really pleased with. I won't know it's exactly right until I iron off the pen marks, and then I may or may not add a little bit more in or take a line away. I don't know, but at the minute I'm quite happy with that, and I think that is it. So all these colours that I've picked up, these are going, I won't be using any of those, and the 10 that I have used are set at the side there, so they'll go into another basket. Let me show you my list now. So all the different lengths of thread that I've used, that will all be added together so I know how much to put into the kit. Instructions are all there ready to type out. So the next stage is the stitch diagram and the felt diagram and the felt templates. And also, now that I know how much thread and how many different colours of thread, I can start cutting out my thread holders. So that's the next stage of putting a kit together. And that will also be the next video. So thank you very much for watching. I had some lovely comments last time about how you're really enjoying seeing this process. So if you are enjoying it, please do comment. It just helps me to know that I'm kind of putting things out there that are either useful or interesting. So a comment, a thumbs up would be absolutely great. I will do, obviously I've got the other colourways to stitch as well, so once they're done I will do either put either an image or a little sort of pan across the top of all the other ones as well, so you get an idea of all the different colourways. Then I will be back with the next video very soon. Okay, thank you again then. Bye bye.